All right. Darren, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure to be here, my man.
Darren, I'm going to read some of the past titles you've had.
Go
Change
for it.
transformation, culture transformation, senior organizational change and adoption consultant, head of transformation. You've been working in the transformation field for a long time. What does that mean? Is it culture? Is it digital transformation? Explain to us.
Well, I think it's everything actually. I, my journey started off in change management, whereby it was a case of switching out the old for the new and making everybody feel comfortable with switching out the old for the new. There's a whole behavioral shift in itself when you go on that journey. But as you know, for technology in the last 15 years, 20 years, myself in the professional industry from the last, let's say, 10 to 15, that's not stopped. We always thought that transformation was okay, we do this project and then we close and BAU. And then in 6 months' time, 8 months' time, in a year, there's something else to adopt. So the reason why transformation has been prevalent through my journey is because actually transformation hasn't stopped. It's the innovation has just continued, right? And as you know, when you think about different technologies that have come around, for us, it's been, or at least for myself, it's been a case of I've always wanted to be at the top part of that transformation of what's innovative right now, what's good, what's hot right now, and is going to transform a boundary. So yeah, I've stayed in the transformation game for a very long time, various different technologies, and actually, luckily for me, I was then introduced to a startup based in New York. I've done a lot in the Middle East, and even though I've been in the Middle East for the last 10 years, like give or take, backwards and forwards, actually was able to see the transformation that's happening here. And it's huge. It's the best way to describe it. It's like the most forward-thinking company or forward-thinking it's the most forward-thinking region without all of the infrastructure it needs to be as forward-thinking as it wants to be. And that's a really unique place because there's opportunity there. You can see that people's heads start to think about how can they implement the newest, how can they be the best. And yeah, for me, I've wanted to stay close to that, and that's what's brought me to the region and allowed me to call this place home.
And is this what inspired you to start your own company? Because you saw
No,
this huge movement, and what is it?
no, no. Why did I start Kobe? I started Kobe because I just had the I had the I had the innate feeling that I need to start something, right? And where did I want to start? I wanted to start with a problem that I had. I thought, right, when it comes to managing money, it's hard, right? Money comes in, sometimes lots of money comes in, sometimes not so much money comes in, but it all goes out the same at the same pace, right? And that's not right. And I don't have, and at that time, I didn't have the correct knowledge and understanding. And I thought, well, AI can solve that for us, right? Surely I can give it a budget and it can tell me exactly what I need to do. Why don't I build that as a product? So that's how I started off with Kobe actually. So Kobe stood at the time for, apart from the fact I used to play basketball, Kobe stands for Collaborative Banking Intelligence, or at least stood for Collaborative Banking Intelligence, right? So the idea was that utilizing open banking, we could put all of our accounts into one platform, utilize the AI to manage that, let us know what we should be doing, but also giving us access to the right rewards and benefits and products that are best suited for our overall journey. Um, that's what I started with. That's the problem I wanted to solve. That's not the problem I'm solving today. And that's you learn that through iterative discussions with customers in terms of what they actually want. But that's why I started the company, not because of the region specifically. I love the region in general. But yeah, outside of that, that's why I wanted to start Cobi was to fix the challenge of financial planning.
So tell us, what does Kobe do now?
Yeah, so Cobi now is an AI native business intelligence platform. So that's built for banks and fintechs. So we drive customer engagement, we drive revenue opportunities, and then also product optimization. All of that's fancy for just being able to say we help banks and fintechs achieve hyper-personalization for their customers. We do that by ingesting all of their data. We take that data and we match that to the products and services that are offered and look at customer segments to understand which services they should be using and identify which benefits are more suited to them. So it's a whole behavioral piece in terms of the nudges the way that a customer should transcend your effectively your customer journey within that bank or fintech or digital wallet as an example.
So you're trying to understand the customer customer value over a long period of time and how companies can get the most out of them.
Effectively, but it actually it's less so that that sounds a bit predatory. I think it plays both sides. It's yes, the bank fintech needs to understand the products and services, how they can be profitable, and give the right product to the right person to see uptick in a or adoption in a particular service. But for the customer, you know, when you come into a digital banking environment, how do you know what product or service you need? Yes, you need a current account. Yes, you'll probably want to get a savings account. But when it comes to credit cards, loans, they're a pretty standard sticker things for a bank. Which one is going to be more? Which one's going to resonate for me and for my needs? But not only that, as a bank, I should be able to transcend through their experience and over time take different products. Why should I not achieve the wealth version of their debit card, right? Why should I not be part of their private banking consumer? But that's over time. And then what things does that customer need to do or achieve to be able to be in that category? So for me, that's how I was looking at it from two sides. One being the bank looking at how they give more products and services to a customer, but also for a customer to understand how can I improve my overall financial health, my financial journey, and also let the bank help me along that journey with the relevant products and services they have. So yeah, it was that's how we approached it from two sides.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it because I'll give you an example. I get a lot of calls from the bank asking me to join different programs, and I have
Mhm.
no idea if it's good for me or not. So I have to listen to a 20-minute sales call about how I benefit from it, and that sometimes it's completely irrelevant to my financial situation. So I think having this tool and personalized for my needs is obviously helpful for me as a customer, and of course for the bank because they're able to get more from the client, and the client getting exactly what he needs. But I have a question about regulation because when you're in fintech, it's kind of a sensitive industry to be in.
Mhm.
You're taking customer data. So how does that work?
Yeah, so we actually deploy on premise. So
Okay.
therefore, we're always in our client's environment. We also work with different verticals as well. So e-commerce, telecom. There's some entertainment companies that we're working with, not so much regulated. But when it comes to our banks and fintechs, we definitely deploy in their environment. We understand data sovereignty. We also make sure that effectively we're not holding any data. We just become the processor of. So actually, when we start looking at customers' data, we don't know any names. We don't know their addresses. That data is masked for us. But when it goes back into our client's environment, they exactly understand which customer they're targeting and which region, etc.
And is it difficult to get in with those? Because your target is probably banks, like big banks or financial institutions. They're not an easy group to, not an easy industry to get into unless you're one of the main players. So how did you get in? How are you able to acquire customers in such a tough industry?
I'll give you one word: persistence. I think people got fed up of me hammering their emails, hammering their LinkedIn. But once you get into one, you'll be surprised that there's a lot of FOMO in the region. They don't want to be last. It's not about, yeah, actually, I think that's a good way to describe that sector. Not everybody wants to be first, but nobody wants to be last. So with that being said, it's a case of understanding the pain points when it comes to regulations, as you've mentioned, very quickly understanding what they're sensitive to, understanding which stakeholders need to be involved as well. So you may have some really inquisitive product people, you may have some really innovative head of digital banking, but actually who holds the keys is your infosec team. Right. If you don't win them over, if they're not understanding what you're trying to do, you can forget about it. So yeah, for us, it was a case of understanding the relevant stakeholders, being able to build up some of those use cases, and then finding out that actually there's a lot of people that struggled with those same use cases. So that's how we kind of entered the market. We went from, hey, can you have a conversation with us, to we know exactly what your pain is. Come and have a conversation with us.
Darren, the reality is that a lot of companies just put AI in their titles and it's just a buzzword. It doesn't really do anything. And I can tell you from experience, a lot of these tools, they don't do much. They might have a fancier presentation, but you can't do anything with the data that they give you. So you emphasize that you're not just reports, but you're actionable insights, basically.
Mhm.
So how do you do that? And how do you make sure that the client understands you're not just another consulting company or you're just not another additional tool, but you're something necessary for their infrastructure?
Yeah. So two things. First of all, it's our approach, right? We're flexible in that way of understanding exactly what their goal is and demonstrating that we just use the insights to change an experience. What experience you want to change is up to you. So that's one. Two, we look at AI very differently. Um, for us, it's the enabler. It's the enabler to be able to turn around and say that for these particular customers, this is the experience we're going to give them. It just speeds things up, in essence. So yeah, I think from that level, we look at. I'm just remembering now. Sorry, I went off track. Uh, for that, for looking at those customer segments, we utilize the AI to start looking at products specifically, as opposed to just the actions for a customer or just the services. Like we sit right in the middle. No one's really looking at that today. Maybe some people will look at it soon, but actually, the way that I think about it is that we give intelligence to the product. So imagine like a product had a personality. Imagine a credit card. Imagine a credit card had a personality, i.e., Bank ABC's credit cards persona is X, and I'm looking for this type of person who spends this amount of money, who's been with me this amount of time. Oh, and actually, if you're new and I see this and I see that, then I want to talk to you. That's how we think about utilizing generative AI, right? The predictability of the next step or the next thing that should be said. So that's how we've thought a bit differently in terms of actioning the intelligence, as opposed to it just being a report that AI gives you on a weekly basis.
I love that because I've always had this problem with banks, but I've never really thought about fixing the issue. I just got used to it. Um, so I want to take a step back and talk a bit about your past experiences versus your startup today. How many of the skills you've had over these different jobs were transferable for your company? And what were things that were very challenging? Because a startup has its own challenges and difficulties, even if you've had a great career.
Yeah,
So transferable skills, things you had to learn from scratch.
yeah. When it came to thinking about features, thinking about ideas and features are easy, and I think that's what my experience leads towards, right? Understanding that people have a problem, getting them to move from one system to another, and understanding what that journey looks like, understanding the emotional levers. That's super easy for us. Apart from that, there were no other transferable skills. Well, I'm lying actually, because you've got stakeholder management that becomes a thing, relationship building that becomes a thing. Um, but what I thought startups would be is very different to what startups are. It's not just a case of starting your own business. You are starting a company. I think they are two very different things. When it comes to legal and compliance, HR, they are very different topics to, oh, let me create this service and I'll sell it for X and then, I'll retain Y. That's not what you're building here. So how do you build something that's scalable? How do you get buy-in? Raising capital from investors is not easy. Some people do better than others. That's definitely the case. But at the same time, it's still not an easy job. You are always selling, and I didn't sell it. Consulting, say somewhat they're the same thing, but it's definitely different. But you're selling to customers, you're selling to employees, you're selling to try and get a co-founder, you are selling to investors. Always be closing. That's a real thing, and that's not something I expected on this journey. I didn't expect to be challenged as much as, when I say challenge, I don't mean kind of like a life challenge. I mean people telling you that your idea is crap, people telling you why it won't work, a lot of no's from VCs, you're too early, a lot of customers ghosting you. I didn't have that before in my consulting role. So they are things that you have to kind of be ready for as part of the journey.
Darren, who helps you with these new Like these new fields. You mentioned legal, HR. These are not things you had to worry about when you were an employee in a company.
Yeah,
So how did
yeah,
you navigate? Did you have mentors? Did you have people around you that have been through the same journey?
yeah. So again, kind of leaning on the relationship building side of things, you tend to find that founders are they're almost like brothers in arms, you know. The good ones anyway. They'll point you the right direction, and they'll make the relevant introductions, and that's what's super helpful. So, for example, for legal, you know, a founder I reached out to a founder. He said, "Hey, I use this legal team. Brilliant, done deal." When it came to finances and accounting, for example, I was looking at getting a finance manager. I said, "No, you don't need to do that. There's a guy that I know. Uh, I'll give him a shameless plug, Finalytics. So finance as a service. You know, I can pay monthly for my finance. You know, I can outsource that, and actually, I want to outsource rather than hire in. So that's through relationships. You understand what you need. And then also trial and error because we've had some horror stories there as well. So yeah, I think for when it comes to legal, HR, accounting, things like that, even tech to some degree, it really just becomes you have to rely on your network and trust your network, and yeah, that's how you kind of get guided. I think also just very quickly on like the investor side of things, they're also quite helpful in that manner as well. They're able to point you to what other services founders have used, and they become effectively the mentor and the help to guide you through the journey because it is a chaotic one.
You mean investors that are already invested or just investors in
Yeah,
general that you
yeah,
reach out to?
investors that are already invested. You know what? In some cases, actually, investors who aren't ready to invest in you, but they would like to support your growth, which you know sounds counterintuitive, but actually that is a real thing. There are investors who have said, "Listen, you're too early for us," but I speak to them on a regular basis, and you know they're a really good soundboard for our targets, and then also understanding what resources we need because they've seen this journey, you know, 100x. Um, in terms of you know this is the type of resource you need at this point in time.
Darren, I'm going to end with this. What's the next big milestone for Cobi?
I think of what I should share. For us right now, what we're focused on is a lighter version of Cobi. So you know we're a B2B platform. You know we charge significant amount per month for what we do. But actually, I want to get this into the hands of everyone. I think that there should be a world whereby an SME should be able to plug in a version of Cobi which helps them understand their customers, is able to derive the understanding of their products and services, and drive a different experience for each of their customers. I think that would be quite powerful. Um, Actively working on that. The reality is there's so much to do before that, but that would be the next big milestone for Cobi.
Mm, that's awesome. Darren, thank you so much for doing this.
Appreciate it.